Today we're talking about the 2026 Unit SLS, or the regular unit. Both models have been completely redesigned. The main difference between them is essentially this. One uses Alula and SLS material for the front tube, and the other uses regular high-strength Dacron. The front loop is wide enough in 2026. You can do behind the back passes with both hands, and the whole thing is stiff enough and doesn't twist, so you can really control the wing well. Inflation and deflation are done via the Duotone valve. There are additional dump valves on the center strut and on the front tube. Everything is connected with a one pump system, which is kept very short and runs absolutely straight. Both wings are delivered without jacks and without handles. These must be purchased separately. The price here is approx 100 euros. The handlebar is very well dimensioned in diameter and slightly ovalized. The front connection point is lighter, meaning the whole thing is designed as a pistol grip. If you choose the handles, you can still hold the wing at the pressure point because the front handle is very long. In the SLS version, the middle segments are made of Alula and the rest is made from the well-known SLS material. The front tube is closed with a Keter seam, which is doubled from the inside and stitched 4 times. The robust and durable fabric of the leading edge is a carefully engineered mix of both double and triple ripstop material, providing exceptional strength and resilience for optimal performance. The trailing edge is simply hemmed, and there are 2 battens on each side to ensure that absolutely nothing can flutter here. All critical areas are protected with rubberized material against impacts and abrasion. We now have 2 small windows in the unit, which provide moderate visibility to leeward. What's new and striking is that there is no infill panel here. Instead, from the middle of the wing, the angled center strut supports the profile towards the back. If you choose the control bar, there are additional cover plates here that are screwed on so you don't hurt your hands on the open connection points. The center strut is attached to the canopy with a single seam and is doubled and glued from the inside. Compared to its predecessor, the unit now has a thinner front tube and the profile has only a slight V-shape across its entire width from tip to tip. Looking from the leading edge, the profile is kept quite soft overall, from the fabric tension in the front area to the middle. It's only from the middle, where the Mod 3 fabric begins, that the wing becomes very stiff, even when you press on it manually with your hand. Overall, the wing has excellent fabric tension. And at the transition from the front tube to the canopy, as always, there's an additional strip of fabric for reinforcement. On the way to and while entering the water, it's immediately noticeable that the new unit no longer has its slight tendency to swing from side to side, from tip to tip, where it used to rock a bit. Now it's really very stable. When you pick up the wing, you immediately get a very light feeling with a truly well-balanced wing, which, as you can see here, remains quite stable even in very offshore winds and extremely gusty conditions. What's interesting is that it really delivers full power for pumping across the entire surface. You can grab it further forward, you can grab it more in the middle, you can pump at the front, pump in the middle, or pump at the back. The wing seems to be almost completely indifferent to this. Boards that are a bit harder to get out of the water can be pumped with a slightly higher frequency. Otherwise, if you choose the right course and have enough wind, you don't need to pump at all, because the profile develops optimally in terms of performance. The upwind performance is absolutely outstanding. Curiously, this is even more pronounced with the SLS than with the regular unit. This is partly because our test wing in 5 square meters, when you pressed your hand into the front profile, really felt quite soft and therefore pulls through the air very smoothly, while the 4-meter unit had a bit more tension, but still, thanks to its profile design, was also able to achieve excellent upwind angles. The fairly flat, yet truly highly efficient profile also makes an incredibly good impression when it comes to speed, and is definitely among the best that the high-performance freeride wing scene has to offer. The pressure point on the new unit seems locked in place, so when it comes to ease of use, we really have to give it a full 10 out of 10, if you will, because you can grab it anywhere, whether you hold it in the middle, further back, with a wide grip or a narrow one, it doesn't matter at all. The basic handling and positioning are just an absolute breeze. Thanks to an absolutely optimal balance from tip to tip, from leading edge to trailing edge, and a 100% fixed pressure point, the maneuver handling is pretty much perfect. We no longer have any extra or increased load on the backhand, even in stronger winds. We get an immediate, consistent airflow as soon as you come out of a maneuver, just like with its predecessor. None of that has been lost at all. But all the tacks upwind and everything you do against the wind is even easier now thanks to the very thin leading edge, which just makes the whole thing a playful pleasure. And since the SLS responds so smoothly to steering input, it's just a bit better and more harmonious than the regular unit in this area. When it comes to freestyle, the unit is just as popular as it is in the freeride sector, and the 2026 model really highlights that par excellence. We have the same very high performance as its predecessor, high speed, truly excellent lift, and very nice controllability in the air. This softness against the wind, in other words, this yielding to the air that comes from the not so hard leading edge, makes all the rotations even softer and more controlled than with the previous model. And because the front tube is also thinner, we can perform even faster rotations here. So in this area, the unit definitely won't lose anything compared to its predecessor. Anyone who prefers the Unit 2026 in the waves will also have a lot of fun here, and of course, if that's your main discipline, you might have to consider whether it might actually perform almost better than the float, which is specifically designed for waves. In fact, when holding and steering it, it feels even a bit lighter and more playful than the float, which certainly has very good characteristics in terms of its adaptability and handling in the waves, but the new unit really isn't far behind in that regard. Even the trailing edge only drops if you deliberately head straight towards the wing. Otherwise, with side-to-light, side-offshore winds, it's almost impossible to run into the wing. Even when you hold it behind you, it's absolutely docile and thanks to its playful handling, can be brought back into position very easily. So in this area as well, it's an excellent choice. Let's wrap up with the conclusion and also the internal comparison between the Unit SLS and the unit. We can clearly state that the new 2026 unit is truly outstanding, has absolutely perfect tuning, and thanks to the thinner front tube diameter and a completely revised profile tension, has reached a whole new level. Something we've only observed in comparison with another wing we tested in parallel, the Vario Aura X3. In both cases, this was truly the best we've experienced so far in the wing sector. Of course, we will also mention this note about duotone in the Vario test to ensure everything is fair and transparent here. The advantage that the Unit SLS and the unit had over the Vario was that during freestyle jumps the rotations were a bit smoother. Overall, the Vario felt just a bit stiffer. The performance potential was extremely high for both, but as mentioned, the overall impression and feel were simply more pleasant and controlled, especially for freestyle specialists. In the freeride sector, the performance is outstanding. Optimal upwind angles, very high speed, everything is very easy to access. and something I didn't particularly like about the previous model was the higher physical force required on the backhand, which has now been balanced out with the new profile tension. The whole thing is now much more balanced, significantly less physical, and therefore, from our perspective, absolutely recommended for very light or perhaps not so physically trained individuals. Let's take another look at the comparison between the Unit and the Unit SLS. With the SLS, the distinctive profile tension was even more pronounced, so you could feel these differences even faster and more clearly. The slightly stiffer frame meant that you had even more stability in very strong winds. It wasn't exactly a surprise that this happened. Overall, the SLS felt a bit more refined, and of course you have to consider the price. The Unit, in 5 square meter, costs 1,119 euros, and the SLS is 1,479 euros. In both cases, you have to add another 100 euros for either handles or a control bar. In this case, we recommend the control bar, as it had absolutely no disadvantages for us. No higher physical effort required, and ergonomically, it was no problem either. Of course, if you prefer, you can choose the handles that face your body. For the difference of 350 euros, we would have ultimately chosen the SLS. Because with that one, the kick of a truly modern new wing was even more noticeable. But overall, you can really say that both options are truly great.